Death Stranding is one of those games that completely fascinates me to this day. It was a game that was divisive on release and left many Kojima fans sincerely frustrated and downright confused with what they played. What made this game so jarring initially was Kojima's history leading up to it. After Kojima's departure from Konami and the cancelled Silent Hills, which is something I cry about every week, he would set off and start his own studio, Kojima Productions, where he would begin working on and crafting the experience he's always dreamed of. An experience that deviates away from the industry norms, a game that would be extremely niche and specific to a certain type of player. And most importantly, a title that would prioritize ambience and immersion over combat and tropey game design. This game is still one of the most controversial and divisive games of the past decade, and is absolutely worth experiencing. Now, let's get this out the way right now. Death Stranding is not a walking simulator. This game quite simply can't have a genre designated to it, because it does and becomes so many different things. One moment you're shooting enemies in a high-risk outpost, the next you're driving your vehicle loaded with cargo across dangerous tar with deadly ghost monsters lurking beneath. And after all of that, you might fight a whale or a squid in the middle of a mountain or barren wasteland. Saying this game is just a walking simulator is honestly so deceptive. Because while yes, walking is a huge part of this game, it's by no means as significant as people claim. Because there's so many other ways you can traverse the environment. For example, you have vehicles, zip lines, exoskeletons, and so many other pieces of varied equipment that seriously makes planning trips, and even executing them, downright addictive. And there's so many other ways the game adds variety to the gameplay loop in ways that are just downright insane, Phantom Pain style. For example, in this game you can't die because you're something called a repatriate. Literally every time you die, you'll have to swim back to your body in this limbo state and revive yourself, leading to this horrifying moment and cutscene. Or for example, let's touch on the mules of this game. These guys are essentially survivors who want to steal the packages from delivery men, meaning every time they steal your package, which don't worry, it doesn't occur that often in the game, you'll have to go on this giant stealth mission to retrieve them, and it's always a highlight of the game every single time it happens. And lastly, one of my favourite mechanics in the game is just the BB and how he functions in this world. The BB is not only a perfect story device and narrative element of this game, but he also contributes so much to the gameplay in ways I simply don't want to spoil. He's your one and only companion, so be nice to him if you do play the game, he's not your enemy. However, Death Stranding's greatest moments, in my opinion, are exactly the ones that make this game so divisive. Exploring Death Stranding's world is oftentimes confusing and extremely unforgiving, with so much care and attention to how you traverse it. For example, certain types of terrain are more dangerous than others. There's a chance of confronting mini-bosses around every single corner. And the BTs of this world are some of my favourite enemies for how menacing they were and how much they could colossally destroy your progress if you accidentally encounter them. Oh, and just before I forget, you can literally shower, make pee and poop grenades, which are your starting weapons by the way, and trigger these alternate scenes with the main villain. Seriously, visit your room as much as possible because you could miss out on at least 30 extra minutes with the main villain of this game, which adds a lot of context to the story and honestly improves it if you do put in the effort to see them. Oh, and speaking of the story, let's talk about that. Death Stranding's story is a lot, and I mean a lot, of different things. So much so to the point where you can find multiple hour-long essays breaking this thing down because it really can feel overwhelming. This campaign took me 38 hours to finish over the course of about 3 to 4 weeks, and my god was it an experience that felt draining at times. However, after finishing it and thinking about that ending for about 5 years, I can confidently say it's absolutely worth your time. Now, I'm not going to break down the story or explain the plot, however I will discuss a few elements I really love, and it's mainly with the villains of the game. So if I've convinced you to check this out and you don't want any spoilers, click to this timestamp. My favourite characters in Death Stranding's story are in fact the main villains because this game does not hold back with its big bads at all. Troy Baker and Mads Mikkelsen carry so much screen presence in this game, and that's mainly through how badass and interesting their characters were. My favourite villain, Troy Baker's Higgs, is a maniacal terrorist who possesses superpowers and has an outrageous amount of charisma, chewing up every scene he's in. This is probably Troy's most charismatic performance yet, and offers so many fun boss fights and cosmic horror elements to the campaign in ways that just make his chapters all the more memorable. And Mads Mikkelsen's Clifford Unger, on the other hand, just takes what Higgs did and amplifies it to an even higher level. His levels are so disturbingly dark and depressing in ways that seriously won me over. Chapter 4 specifically is a big turning point for this game and will introduce you to one of the coolest levels you've probably ever experienced in this setting. Oh, and by the way, I just want to touch on the horror elements of this game because they're absolutely stellar. These characters offer so much in terms of variety to the point where I was just waiting for them to show up again. And that's not me saying the other characters don't carry the story, because they absolutely do. I'm just saying that these villains are some of the most entertaining and charming big bads I've ever faced off against, and I'm so happy Higgs is back for the sequel. And the other characters you meet, such as Hartman, Die Hardman, Mother, and Deadman, yes, I'm fully aware of how fucking ridiculous these names are, are all extremely entertaining, awesome, and explore so many great themes and stories that were all incredibly interesting and extremely memorable. Especially Hartman's chapter, that whole segment of the game was so brutal to watch. And his story actually made me cry the first time I saw it because of how emotional it was. The story in this game goes to a lot of places, discusses a lot of themes, and will ultimately leave an impact on you if you do decide to stick with it. And while yes, there are absolutely chapters that are obnoxious and feel beyond excessive, that being chapter 3. I'm sure everyone who's played the game hates this chapter as much as I do. But if you can make it past that god-awful section of the game, the remaining 11 chapters are also interesting and a great way to spend 25 hours. Although there is one more reason to try this out, and that's how this game might connect with you if you are the targeted demographic. My favourite moments in Death Stranding are exactly the ones people hate, and that's the slow-paced nature of exploring the world. Some of my favourite chapters are so effective because they don't have any dialogue, no interactions with anyone, just digesting the environments and being immersed. I remember really connecting with this area of the game specifically because my dog died around a week after I bought the game. And having these moments to just explore and soak up these emotions was an experience I'm extremely thankful for. Death Stranding was my depression game for about a month, and whenever I feel sad I do occasionally play this because it really helps me get through those dark times. And after being involved in the community for a few years now, it sounds like that's not an uncommon reaction to have. The ambience in this game seriously pulls an emotional 2 out of you because not only is this world just so absolutely beautiful and stunning, but the music and low-roar additions to the soundtrack just really make everything all the more disturbing and beautiful. I can't be the only one who became a low-roar fan after finishing Death Stranding. Somebody else let me know in the comments if you listen to these guys consistently as well. In conclusion, Death Stranding is an absolutely beautiful experience that is so much better than what the haters say. Its gameplay is some of the most innovative and unique I've ever played. The story is some of the most immersive and invested I've been in an extremely long time, and the game as a whole just feels so undeniably epic and memorable. And that ending has to be one of the most powerful and emotional endings that will seriously leave an impact on you years after finishing it. If you haven't checked out Death Stranding, there's no better time to be a fan. The community is really fun and enjoyable to engage with, we're getting a sequel next year, and the lore of this game is just so endlessly fascinating and deep that will really engage you if you're into this specific thing. I absolutely recommend this game to anyone, and right now it's the cheapest it's ever been, so go and treat yourself, it's absolutely worth experiencing. Thanks for watching the video guys, I really appreciate it. Now, if you're a fan of my channel, I have a very exciting announcement. And that's that this channel is officially a retrospective and review channel, I guess. Every game I talk about from this moment forward will be something I'm passionate about. It's a game that's either resonated with me in the past, connected with me in the future, or just something I love playing in my free time. I'm well aware that the main problem with this channel has been consistency, so going forward we're just gonna fix that completely by making the content worthwhile and passionate. Oh, and just before I forget, I'm also upgrading my mic tomorrow. I'm getting the Shure SM7B, which is one of the best microphones you can buy. So the audio for my content is going to go up dramatically. We won't have any peaking, the audio is going to be consistent, and it's going to be great. So if you're excited for my next video and you're excited for all the content changes in the future, don't forget to like, comment, and even subscribe. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one if you stick around. Take care, guys.